The Mendon-Honeoye Falls-Lima Sentinel welcomes you to this edition of the Mayors and Supervisors Weekly Update, brought to you by...
Each week, our community makes history. Each week, you make history. And each week, there's only one source to turn to for the first take on history. You know what that is? Subscribe to the Sentinel right now to discover the history being made in your own backyard.
The Mendon-Honeoye Falls-Lima Sentinel. More than just your news, it's your history.
Hey, welcome everyone to this week's edition of the Mayors and Supervisors Update. I'm Chris Carosa, publisher of the Mendon-Honeoye Falls Sentinel, and each week we bring you the goings-on of the towns and villages that we cover. This week we're going to start with Mike Falk in the town of Lima. Mike, what's cooking in Lima?
Well, Chris, Lima's doing fairly well right now. Thanks for having us as always. The normal barbecue over there right next to the mural is going to be opening for lunch starting Wednesday, February 22nd. You can find them online, the normal barbecue, spelled BBQ. I am just back from representing Livingston County at the National Association of Counties Conference in Washington, D.C. While I was there, I got to see a presentation by Dennis Alvord, the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Regional Affairs from the Economic Development Administration in the U.S. Department of Commerce. There is a grouping of 38 countries that are participating in a worldwide economic development group. The U.S., of course, being part of it, he being the representative. Several of those countries have already adopted the EDU rules, the small dwelling units, accessory dwelling units, et cetera, that we have been discussing on this show. It's designed to increase housing affordability and centralize population density. They are well on their way, these other places. So the idea of the framework is not a new thing, and it is not something that Governor Hochul has thought up on her own. This is actually something that's already going on other places on the planet. It's just going to be coming soon to a theater near all of us. I also got to meet with Veterans Affairs officials, rural broadband officials, even got to see a speech by President Biden. Last day of the conference, I got to present as part of a panel on the advantages of professional county management. It was a very interesting experience being down there, trying to put some faces to the names, personalizing the Washington experience, whatever you want to call it. I can tell you that President Biden is exactly in person like you see him on TV. There is no filter. That is exactly what it is. There is another anonymous letter that has been circulated to targeted households here in the town of Lima regarding proposed Water District 5. The letter had to be anonymous. The community reputations of the authors and senders are such that if they actually signed the letter, you would recognize their names and throw it out with the rest of the junk mail. Don't give in to anonymous bullies and cowards. Make up your own mind. If you do indeed wish to sign the petition in favor of the district, then please do so. If you are not in favor of the district, do not sign the petition. If you have any questions, certainly get a hold of us here at the town hall, 585-582-1130. Thanks. That's all I got, Chris.
Mike, I'm going to do a rare thing and ask you a follow-up on this ADU thing because I know it's a big issue. In the conference that you just went to, when you were talking about ADUs and you were seeing what other experiences are, did those experiences fall in line with the concerns that people have about them, or did it turn out those concerns are immaterial?
So they did not discuss how the change took place, only that New Zealand, Australia are already moving to this kind of model. What we are going through here with the potential loss of local control for our zoning and all of the other things that go with that, they may have gone through that, but it was not discussed.
So the examples that they brought are not American examples, they're other country examples.
That is correct.
Ah, okay. That's an important distinction. All right. That's very good. Thanks, Mike. And you know, if you want to elaborate more about your trip on Washington as a separate article in the paper, I invite you to do so, because people are always interested in, you know, the old Mr. Smith goes to Washington thing, and you would
Right.
definitely qualify as a Mr. Smith in a good way. So, all right. Hold on for a moment. So, Steve, what's happening in Henrietta this week?
A lot of the same stuff we've been working on for some time. As I've mentioned before, it sometimes amazes me how much slower things move in government. But we've got a couple, about 3 new special permits on the agenda for next week. Some projects are starting to close up, and we're seeing roads dedicated for some of the developments that have come in place. Today was apparently meeting day. I had a breakfast with the Jewish Federation, meeting with a lot of legislators to talk about the rise in hate crimes, and specifically, you know, racially motivated and anti-Semitic attacks, including, unfortunately, mass murder. So, and some of that's happening right here in Monroe County. Including in a number of towns. Fortunately, we haven't seen much in the way of Henrietta, but we have seen them in other towns in Monroe County, so that's problematic. And then this afternoon was the Monroe County Supervisors Association, and we were talking about the issues with an item contained in the governor's budget that, similar to what was in there briefly last year, it addresses issues, tries to address issues that are present in New York City area, but paints the rest of the state with them. And the problematic portions of that is it takes away what's called home rule, which basically says that it's the towns who get to decide how their, you know, their zoning rules and that type of stuff are applied. One of the things it's supposedly trying to address is affordable housing and housing equity. But, you know, one of the challenges we see is like it does this big push towards people for renting. And one of the challenges I see in that regards is that, you know, one of the big ramifications from the older redlining practices is that you had a lot of families who had no generational wealth. They had no house that they could pass down to their kids, and their kids would essentially have a head start. When you're renting, you can't do that. Whereas, you know, I know my family, they bought during the baby boom, they bought this, you know, 1,500 square foot house in the middle of suburbia, and you know that generational wealth could then be passed down. When that house sold, you know, it could be used in the proceeds from that sale passed on to the kids. So I'd love to see things done differently. Pretty much all the supervisors were united against this idea, although I'll be honest, I suspect there may be some political games going on with this idea, in that everybody's talking about this, not as much about the other stuff in the budget. So maybe that's the whole idea, and then they'll get rid of this and satisfy everything, and I don't know, who knows. But you know, it is problematic. But at the same time, you know, we are looking in Henrietta on how to address making houses more affordable. I don't like to use affordable housing because that has a specific term, but you know, one of the challenges is that because of the higher infrastructure costs these days, you're seeing homes that are built, I won't necessarily say always at the high end, but not at the low end. And so that's what puts such a high demand on the entry level homes that go up on the market for sale, and what's driving that market through the roof as far as real estate prices. So we're looking to address that with hopefully with some changes to our incentive zoning, to try to come up with ways to encourage developers to build smaller homes that are more affordable to the first-time home buyer. So some of what we're looking at. That's about it. Other than stuff I've reported on previously, State of the Town address is coming up March 1st. If anybody's interested, they can reach out to me at supervisor@henrietta.org. Again, it's a fundraiser for our Chamber of Commerce, who has a scholarship fund that provides 3 scholarships for residents of Henrietta. So thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Steve. Okay, I'm all set, back again. Brent Rozak, he is pinch hitting for John Moffat in the town of Mendon. Today, Brent, what's the report from Mendon?
Well, thank you for having me today. I'm glad to join. I also wanted to touch on today about ADUs and water districts. That's something that we hear from a lot of our residents around this area. To begin with the ADUs, specifically, it's more for me, it's about the attempt to take the local control away from towns and villages in this area. Mendon, we have 4 different zoning districts, which have different sizes required for a single family home. We have a lot of considerations of soils and environmental aspects of what size lot that would need to be to provide potable water and treatment of wastewater. And we do discuss those and review those periodically. Now, a lot of my interpretation of what I reviewed from the Albany proposal has to do with, they're basing their decisions on public utilities such as transportation and density of homes. Now, whether you support the ADU decision or are against the ADU decision, personally, I don't have enough information to come to a conclusion yet. I'm more concerned with Albany taking control of that. Albany almost, in my opinion, seems as though the cost of housing is they don't have enough control, and they need to take the home rule away so they can increase the density of housing. And also, in my opinion, local, town, and village governments is the only government you can easily sit down face to face with your elected officials and either voice your concerns or voice your support for these issues. If Albany takes these away, and there is something that comes up in the future which you do not agree with, I think that who are you going to voice your concerns to? That's what it comes down to me. So I'm definitely for local rule, whether we move forward with the ADUs or if we stay towards single family dwellings. The second thing I'd like to discuss is the water main extensions. We hear from a lot of residents, we wish that we had water. So there is a process that goes through that, and which sounds like the town of Lima is going through right now. It sounds like they're in the petition phase. So a water district is a special use district that's required by town law, where a specific area of the town receives a specific benefit. The cost for that benefit are borne solely by the property owners in that specific area that receive that benefit. So all of the people in the town of Mendon that currently have water, they paid for those water main extensions, and the people that do not have water would need to pay for a future water main extension. There is a step that you do need to go through, and the first thing that you need to do is talk to your neighbors. Find out if they're interested in getting water. The town of Mendon, back in 2018, we did a preliminary study on what the cost of water extension would be in the town, and that can be found on the town website. There is a PDF. Now, please, take that with a grain of salt. It is 5 years old, so the costs have changed, but the costs have not gone down. So if you review that and you and your neighbors are still interested in extending water in that phase, the next step is to petition the town board. Then there is a public notice that goes out. There's a public hearing. Then the town board would act. Now after that, it goes to the New York State Comptroller for approval to make sure that it's affordable for that area. And then there's town board action. After all of that, if it goes forward, then we can start talking about putting plans together, getting prices for that bid. And, you're talking, it's probably a 12 to 24 month process at least. So it's not something that's going to happen overnight. But, I don't want to take up too much time. It's something we could talk about more in depth at a later point in time. Or if anybody is interested in the town of Mendon, please call the town hall and discuss it. Look at the website, review those numbers, and contact us if you have any questions.
All right. Thanks, Brent. And I will just point out to everyone that if you are interested in ADUs and what Albany is doing, we've run a couple of stories on it. Probably you'd want to look at the commentary on page 3 in the February 16th issue, which tells you, among other things, why this proposal in New York State is being promulgated, primarily because, and this is the quote from the Housing and Community Renewal Commissioner, who said that this is an issue especially downstate because our population is growing, which is a rather interesting comment since New York's population is falling faster than even California's, according to an article that appeared in this week's story headlines. So I will take myself out of this. This is not the Chris Carosa report. It's the Mayors and Supervisors report. And each week we bring it to you. Thank you guys for being a part of today's show. Thank you, listeners. Remember, every Sunday at 1 o'clock, this program is broadcast. If you are a member or a subscriber of our YouTube channel, or if you like our Facebook page, you will be notified at 1 o'clock on Sunday when the show starts being broadcast. So just like us there or subscribe to us there and you'll be all set. That's all for this week. Thanks for playing. We'll see you again next week. Bye-bye for now.
Imagine yourself communicating with a difference. Pan-Dimensional Solutions helps you do this. Whether live spectator events, taped broadcasts, or real-time audience-engaging programs, you can benefit immediately from the tools Pan-Dimensional Solutions will share with you. Do you want to make a difference? Contact us at pandimensional.com.